what comes next, constantly anticipating what can be. We are fueling global innovation that is changing the world.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm John Wilker with 360 Conferences. I'm the Spotlight and Headline Events Track Chair, as well as a member of the organizing committee for Denver Startup Week. Thanks for joining us for our first ever virtual Denver Startup Week. And this session, your identity as a founder and why it deeply matters to investors. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we are more powerful when we come together as a community to share ideas and help make each other better. And here we are, virtually showing the world what Denver is made of. Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a safe space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow. Regardless of gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, or any combination of those identities. There is something for everyone at DSW. Thank you for joining us. And one more big thank you to Zayo for being such a fantastic partner. We couldn't do Denver Startup Week without them. And with that, I will hand it off to Patrick.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you. I am talking to you from my backyard here in Denver, Colorado, and it's fun calling you on this beautiful day. And of course, I wish I was with you in person, but this will have to suffice. I am going to do a presentation on this idea of your identity and values as a startup and why they're so important to investors. I'm going to talk for about 20, maybe 22 minutes max. But what I love to do is make sure that we, in the rest of the call, with time for you to ask me any questions, whether that's about your startup, whether it's about getting investment, or whether it's about GAN, which is the organization I run, which is a highly curated community of 135 accelerators, 30 startup studios, and 35 Fortune 500 companies who are all coming together to empower startups globally. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And I first want to start off with this fun story, which is 2 years ago. I was at Denver Startup Week and talking with a bunch of founders. And as I was talking with founders, I was describing GAN Ventures to them. And I said this about GAN Ventures. I said, GAN Ventures writes $100,000 checks to seed stage startup founders who do the following: who are self-aware, founders that know more about themselves than people think is normal, who are passionate, who have a weird reason for doing this. Maybe somebody in their family died of cancer and now they're solving something related to air pollution because that's the thing that caused their mom's cancer. We invest in founders who are mission driven. And this isn't social mission driven as much as it's founders who have a North Star that they're marching towards. And we invest in founders that are creating a venture scale company that could go off and return 10 to 100x our investment. But as we were talking about this, I let all the investors go. We actually were able to go first. I let all the other investors then describe what they're doing to the founders in the room. And you heard this. You heard them say the size of check they're writing, the industries that they're looking at, and the stage of company that they're investing in. Was it Series A or B, whatever. But if you stop for a second, just notice what wasn't mentioned at all in this discussion. It was all about the size of the check, what the founder is doing, how they're going to grow. And it had nothing to do with the value set, with the identities of the founders. Nothing about their passion, nothing about are they focused on mission, nothing about their authenticity. And I'm an interpersonal communications and social psychology major. And the one thing that we learned very early on in my degree was that the words we use are very important. And if all founders hear you talk about are what type of industry they're in, how much come away in hearing is this. It's that we need you to sell more, we need you to sell more, and we need you to sell more very, very quickly. The funny thing is, that's the public perception that you hear from a lot of investors. But behind closed doors, I will be perfectly honest with you and say that's not what investors are talking about. What my fellow investors and I are talking about almost all the time is, yes, how big a company's market is, what their product's like, but we're almost always talking about how what the founders like. Do they have what it takes? What are they known for? What's their reputation? Are they resilient? And if you look at this, I think this is one of my favorite studies of all time. Crunchbase did this post-mortem survey, which they went in to say, why did teams actually fail? And here's what they came up with. 23% of the time companies fail because it wasn't the right team. 13% of the time companies failed because they lost focus. Another 13% of the time companies failed because there was fighting among the team. 9% of the time they lost passion, and 8% of the time, and 8% of the time there was burnout for the company. Another way of saying this, 66% of the reasons startups fail are due to soft behavioral related issues. And there's a better word than behavioral here. But 66% of the reasons the startups fail are due to these not having the right team or team disharmony. And it's not product or market. The secret is this. It's that VCs actually care about your soft skills and your values and your identity, but they may never tell you that. But they keep coming back to this, which is 66% of the reasons startups fail are due to this. And it's why every time we get up and talk, we bring in the fact that what are we looking for primarily? It's authentic, passionate, mission-oriented founders that have a huge idea that can grow like crazy. So here's the question for today that we're going to dig into. If VCs care so much about your soft skills and values, and more importantly, they're vitally important to the success of your business, how do you actually build your values and these things? That's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the time today. There's 3 steps to this. First step is this. We have to stop for a second and turn inward. I have some friends in Philadelphia that run it's sort of a homeless shelter, but it's more of a homeless outreach center. It's an amazing group. They all have a house. They live together. But if you go into their house, and this is about 15 of my friends are living in this house together doing this. But if you go into their house, this is the towel that's hanging up on the dishwasher. And it says, everyone wants a revolution, but no one wants to do the dishes. Everyone wants to be out here serving the homeless, which is great, but no one wants to be at the house actually doing the dishes. And I want to be honest with most of us here on the line today, myself included. It's so much easier for us to be taking care of everyone else instead of taking care of ourselves. This is my family. I have a wife and I have 2 amazing daughters. Frankly, it's so easy for me to get pulled into taking care of them versus focusing on myself. This is my wife, another picture of her. It is so much easier for me to go, what does she need versus what do I need? This is a picture of my team and some of my clients. It is so much easier for me to sit here and go, what do they care about? What do they need right now? Versus stopping and caring about myself.
Hey, Patrick.
Yes.
Your slides aren't advancing. Can you refresh your screen share?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Of course. Thank you for saying this.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if it's working, and if it's not, I can also. How are we looking now? Is it showing?
Yes.
You can see a beautiful picture of myself.
Yep. And can you just click the next one real quick?
There you go. Is it working? Can you see that working now?
Yeah.
No. It's not working. It's okay. You know, I can just continue to talk at it if that's okay.
Okay, sure. We'll try to
Cool.
solve things on our end as well.
All right, cool. That's great. Sorry about that. It may be something with my computer too. So let me just try one more thing and we'll see if it works. And if not, we can, give me 1 second. Boop. How's it working? Picture the mat. Anything there? Is it working?
I see a flight attendant.
Yeah, but that's it. Not switching.
No.
Here. I love this too. It's like beautiful. I'm outside, of course, somebody's doing the tree. So I'm going to walk inside too, and hopefully this helps. Give me 1 second. This is amazing. Here we go, everybody. You get to see my house, which is so fun to show you. So, so go back to this for a second here. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Cool. Let me try to do this one more time. We'll see if this works. Cool. Let's see if it's anything working there. Is it progressing?
No.
Okay. Well, you can just see my face. We'll stop this. Well, cool. So here's the deal. So as you go back to this, we sort of going like, I feel as a CEO, so much of my time and energy is spent on my family, my wife, my clients, and my team. And so infrequently I'm stopping going, what do I need? So I think the best analogy is the flight attendant. When we think about this, you get on the plane and she says, if you have a kid, put your air mask on first and put your kids on second. I say the same thing goes for every single founder on the line. It's going, if you aren't showing up well, and if you aren't stopping and sort of understanding who you are and how you're going to show up in the world, you're not going to show up well at all. You're not going to know your identity. And I would just say your investors need you to understand yourself. Your colleagues need you to understand yourself. Your family needs you to understand yourself. And frankly, if you're going to be successful, you need you to understand yourself. So here's the step 2 where I want to take us. And it's this idea that realizing that your values drive your thoughts, which drive your emotions, which drive your behaviors. So if we're able to turn inward and you know that investors care about how you show up in the world, the question is, where do you actually begin? And it's this idea that your values drive your thoughts, which drive your emotions, which drive your behavior. Right now, I'm looking at a picture of me at a University of Oklahoma game. I am the happiest. This is a picture of like one of the happiest moments of my life. I have this giant smile on my face. I'm almost crying because at this very moment, Oklahoma was down from the University of Texas. We were down 41-20, and we just came back to tie the game at 41. And I am just like thrilled. Like I even get chills right now talking to you about it. But you realize what's happening right here is I have a value of loving University of Oklahoma that led to a thought of me going, oh, I love it when University of Oklahoma wins, which drove this emotion inside of me just wants to explode, which then led to this behavior of me like just being the happiest person in the world at that very moment because we're about to tie, because we tied the University of Texas. The thing about this is VCs know this as well. They know that your values lead to thoughts, which lead to emotions, which lead to behaviors. Another way of saying that is investors know that your values drive your behavior. And that's why, going back to my point at the beginning, when we're sitting together talking, we're very much going, yeah, what's the product like? What's the market like? But what's this person really like? What are the values that this person genuinely has that's going to drive their certain behavior? Because let's talk about this for a second. If you aren't if you don't have the value of resiliency inside of you, what happens when problems come up? You're going to struggle. You're sort of going to hit a wall and you're going to give up. You're going to be a victim. But if you have the value of resiliency, which is one of the things that most investors and I look for. If you have the value of resiliency, we know that when something comes up that seems like a roadblock, you are going to go overcome it. You're going to fight through it. You're going to get through that door because we know that value drives you. So the other just sub point I would make is like a lot of founders too come my way and they constantly go, but Pat, what do you care about? Who do you want us to be? But my point is, it's more about going like, how do you care about yourself versus trying to take on all the other things that you could become. Like Brad Feld, amazing person. And you could easily go take on his value and what he cares about. But I think we need to stop and go for a second and just go, what do you care about? Because if you dig into actually what you care about and your identity, that's going to be so much more concrete and stable than taking on somebody else's. So let's get to this final step, and then we will open this up for questions from all of you. If we're going to foster our values, if we're going to build these things up, how do we actually do it? And there's 5 ways that I've seen that we need to do this. Number 1, we need to just at least know and practice what your personal values are. Most of you on the line, I assume, have some sort of company or are at a company. What I would say is most of you have company values that you either have dictated for your employees or you're at a company where they told you what the values are. Those values are all driving the behaviors. One of the values we have at our company is celebration. When something small happens, frankly, we are like texting about it saying, this is amazing that this thing just happened. If we don't celebrate, it feels like we're being inauthentic to ourselves. That value is driving our behavior. But we've taken time and energy to come up with these things, but they're an outpouring of who we are as a company, so we've listed them. I don't think many of us have actually done the same thing personally. We have not sat here and gone, who am I in the world? I'll be honest and say it hasn't been until the last 6 months that I have personally come up and developed values for myself. And by doing it, it allows me to go, okay, when things get tough, when things get difficult, when things are rough, who am I in the world? And after writing them out, you imagine just the more stable and concrete I am. It's amazing. But I would say this, if the first step is knowing and practicing your values, the question is, how do you actually come up with them? And I would say the best way I've found to come up with them is first of all, go, what pisses you off? Like me, for instance, if someone in our office says they're going to do something and doesn't do it repeatedly, we call that our integrity value. It drives me crazy, right? It's like, no, you're not a person of your word. Because it drives me so crazy, it's a value that I care about a lot. And I would just go to each one of you and go, what are the things that drive you crazy in other people? And most likely that's going to be a value that you have, that the opposite of that's going to be the value that you have, that you hold true. But I spend a lot of time in going, what are those values that you hold true? And keep working on those and go, oh, this is who I am, and this is who I am. Because again, go back to that second step of going, if our values drive our thoughts, which drive our emotions, which drive our behaviors, we need to start and understand what are our values. Because if you are a person who is obsessed with money, that's all they want is success. Think about the thoughts you're going to have, think about the emotions you're going to have, and think about the behaviors you're going to have. If all you want to do is make $1 million, $10 million, you're going to spend all your time your thoughts are going to be ones where you get anxious if you feel threatened. Your emotions going to be one where you feel anxiety when you feel like you're not going to reach that goal of $1 million or $5 million or $10 million. And then you're going to do shady things. You're sort of going to cut corners. You're going to cheat people. Or you're not going to be honest with clients. It's going to lead to negative behaviors. But I would just say, start off with what you value in the world. Because once you do that, you realize you'll immediately start seeing how your thoughts and emotions and behaviors are all tied back to that. So second step of this, it's important for you then to complete a self-audit. There's this idea called cognitive dissonance, which is the mental discomfort or physical stress, psychological stress experienced by a person who holds 2 different values, beliefs, or ideas. So let's say you deeply care about serving your clients, but also to deeply, deeply care about making a ton of money. In many ways, those could be aligned, but in many ways too, they could be contradictory. What I would do if I were you is look at after you make your values and list them out, spend some time and go, where in the last month did I feel like there was dissonance? Like I'm showing up in the world, I deeply care about celebration. Where did we not celebrate well? I deeply care about integrity. Where did I, Pat Riley, say I was going to deliver something and not deliver it well? All it was allowing you to do is actually solidify your values to show up well in the world. The third step of this is this realization that not everyone's going to agree with their values. There's values that I have that Brad Feld doesn't have. There's values that Brad Feld has that I don't have. And what's amazing about that is we can still operate in the startup world with a ton of mutual respect for each other and realize that he is him, but I don't have to take his values to show up well. As startups, it's really, really easy to just go, what is the popular thing in the world that I need to follow? What's the appropriate values to have? Like, is it being lean? Is it being efficient? Is it being smart? I don't know what it is for you, but I would just stop and go, know that like whatever the world is asking you, the startup world is asking you to become, may not be the values that you actually should have or want to have. So I would just spend a lot of time going, what are the values you have? And reminding yourself over and over again, it's okay that not everyone follows my same values. The third thing I would say is it's so important to me, and I would say for everyone on the line, to be vulnerable about your findings. I have 5 guys that I meet with once a month. And every month I sit down with them and I go over, I say, hey guys, here's where I really did follow my values in the last month, and here's where I really fall short. But it's this point of, it's doing 2 things. It's number 1, being vulnerable to say, here's who I am as a person. And number 2, here's where I leaned into who I am as a person. And here's where I didn't lean in. And here's where I fell short of who I wanted to be. But the point here is going, try to find a way, whether that's a friend, a partner, a spouse, even someone at work, just to go, hey, once a week or once a month, sit down and go, hey, here's where I showed up really well in the world, and here's where I didn't show up really well. And I think you'd actually be pleasantly surprised how that plays out. And the final thing I'd say for all of you on the line is this. As you develop your values and your identity and how you show up, they're going to change over time. They're going to mold over time. You are not going to always be you're not going to always fall in line with exactly the person who you said you're going to be. But my point is this, you have to be kind to yourself. I'm a huge SoulCycle guy. And I think my sister's laughing in the background as I'm saying this. But I'm a huge SoulCycle guy. But the deal is, like, when I first got on the bike, of course, I'm horrible, right? But I've now gone like 130 times, and it's not an issue anymore. Like, for me to get on the bike, do a 45-minute workout, get off, and feel good. My point is, it took practice and it took being kind to myself. And I would just say for everyone on the line, whether you're doing a values exercise or whether you're building your company or whether you're leading a team, it's just really, really important to just recognize we're practicing getting better at this. And as we mess up, let's just be kind to each other, realizing we can't be perfect all the time. And that's okay, especially as we're on this journey. So I want to say thank you. I'm so sorry the slides didn't work today, but hopefully it came through well enough. And at this point, I'd love to open for questions, whether we want to talk about this idea of how our values lead to our behavior, or if you have any questions about seed stage investing or accelerators or startup studios or how amazing Denver is, I'd love to open up to any questions on the line. So with that, I'll hand it over to the presenters, and we'll love your thoughts. We'll see if we get anybody. Here's somebody raised their hand. Let me see what we got. Do you think accelerators are worth it? Anonymous attendee. I'd love to know who this anonymous attendee is. So GAN. So GAN is a network of 135 accelerators. 13,000 startups globally have gone through them since 2011. Here's what I would say. An accelerator is definitely not for everybody. How an accelerator works is you typically go to an accelerator's office for 3 to 4 months. They surround you with 40 to 80 mentors who are going to help you. They're also going to bring a ton of connections from corporations. And then at the end of the program, their goal is to get you to a place where you are able to scale and get more capital than you would have ever had without going through an accelerator program. But the point is this: not everyone needs investor connections, corporate connections, mentorship. And along the way, you're giving up usually 6 to 7% of equity in your company to go through one of these things. So my point is this: is if you're sitting there going, I need help, I need some mentorship, tell me to help guide my way. I need like a true coach, like the managing director of an accelerator. I need a true coach to come alongside of me and guide me and mold me and change me. Awesome. Like, it's really important that you, if you're looking for like capital connections, like where you're looking to raise money. Those are all things an accelerator can do really, really well. And it's very much worth the 6 to 7%. But if you don't need those things, the mentorship, the connections, or the capital, I'm going, it's probably not the best fit for you, and that's completely okay for you not to, do an accelerator program. I'm gonna see what other questions we have coming in. Cool. In addition to celebration, what are some of the values you live by? So I have two, so there's two different ones. And I'm gonna do my company first, and then I'll do my personal ones second. This is from Becky Tate, so thanks, Becky. So at our company, we have 6 values. I mean, you would have seen these perfectly, so I'm gonna read them off in lieu of you not being able to see them. First value is humanity. And we say we create environments where people are empowered to fulfill who they set out to be. Second value we have is integrity, where we say we're gonna deliver what we say we'll deliver, and we'll be honest early and often when we face challenges. The third one is celebration, which we talked about. The fourth one is service, where we say we exhibit a level of selflessness that makes people question our sainthood. Our fifth is action, where we say we get stuff done. We continually grow and evolve based off of the needs of our community, and we work to proactively know those needs. And our sixth one is drive, where we say we have a deep determination to do whatever is appropriately necessary to support our clients, colleagues, and ourselves. So again, those are company ones. And frankly, they so much come out of a CEO's identity. And they're the things that we use to run our company. But on the personal front, I would very much go, yeah. These are very important. But on the personal front, I've actually gone a little different way and gone, I think there's really 3 things that I sort of, that sort of where I find my identity. And it's this. First one is, I say I'm like beloved. So no matter what I do, I am loved. Right? And I think this is a really, really important one for founders on the line, because I think for so many founders, they're going, if I'm not successful, I'm not going to be loved anymore. People won't respect me anymore. People won't like me anymore. I'm going to be a failure. So it's this first thing going, I'm beloved. I'm beloved by a higher power. I'm beloved by my wife. I'm beloved by my kids. I'm beloved by my family. So it's this constant reminder of when I feel threatened or anxious, I'm going, no, I'm beloved. The second thing I describe myself as like my identity is it's a builder. Like I love building things. I love building companies. I love building organizations that go help and build companies. My job is I'm just in the business of helping others build their startups. So, second part of my identity is just a builder. And the third part of my identity is I make them, made them into 2, but I'm a befriend and I'm a befamily. It's horrible. I have to come up with a better name. But the whole thing is I want to spend a lot of my life being known as someone that's a really, really good friend and really, really good at taking care of his family. So I go back to those a lot, especially in areas when I feel sort of threatened or underconfident. I go, I'm beloved, I'm a builder, and I'm a befriend/family. And it just keeps me really rooted and really strong values. So Becky, if there's other things too that you want to ask, I would love that. Karen, that's a great question here. How do you go about conveying yourself and values in a pitch? So I was with Danya, who wrote his questions here. Danya and I were on a call earlier today with 2 amazing CEOs. It was a guy named Jim Franklin and a guy named Chris Marks, who are investors in town, and they run a bunch of companies. But we're talking about this idea of like, how authentic do you be in your pitch and as you're talking to investors? And Chris, he runs a VC firm called Blue Note Ventures. Chris just made this point. He goes, what did he say? He goes, if you're not authentic now, people are gonna find out what you're about pretty soon. So why not just tell them now? And I think it kind of goes back to the point I was making in the talk, which is like, if you're not freely sharing your values, and one way or another, people are going to find out who you are pretty soon. Because again, if your values drive your thoughts, which drive your emotions, which lead to your behaviors, pretty soon people are going to find out who you are. So I guess Karen, my push to you would be, the sooner the better. Like you saw today, right? Like my slides fell apart. Like I had to move completely, right? But hopefully the thought of like, I really value resiliency as a person. It's like, oh, this sucks, but I'm not gonna like beat myself up over it. it led to me like sort of being calm, collected, and cool as I'm doing like a pitch to all of you. So I guess my point would be, how do you go about conveying yourself and values in a pitch? It's just like, as much as you possibly can, work on yourself outside of the pitch, and it will sort of emulate through you, whether you realize it or not. I'm just going to go in a different way, which is, as investors, we're trained to see through things that you don't say. Like, I'm never looking for what you say, almost. I'm looking for how you say it and like sort of the thing behind the thing. So you might not be telling me that you deeply care about making a ton of money, but the way you're talking, the words you're using, the tone you have, how I ask my follow-up questions will all lead me to a place where I'm going, oh, no, I get what they care about. They just want to, like, they don't really want it. They don't have their heart in this company. They just want to go make a ton of money. This literally happened today. We were talking with this company in Louisiana, and my partner and I were like, this guy did an amazing pitch to us. And we were like, oh, you know what? This guy, if push comes to shove, he's going to screw us over. Like, so if we're going to invest in this guy, we have to make sure we have so many good docs, and we have to have so many good docs, and we have to have so much, like, we're going to have to do so much legal work because we really, really love the product. But we're like, this guy's a little sketchy. If we're going to invest in him, we're going to have to do so much legal work to protect ourselves. My point is, he didn't have to say anything in this pitch for us to get there. We just sort of knew from the way he was talking and showing up and his posture that he was like that. So, Karen, my point is, it goes to those things about like just continuing to continue building your values, making sure they're the right values that you think are appropriate for the world. Danya, who's on the GAN team, asked, what steps can we take to make our own set of values? And it's such a good question. Here's where I would start. I would go, number one, who in the world do you emulate and why? I think this is a really good one. Like, is it Elon Musk, or is it your grandfather, or is it one of your friends, or is it someone, is it someone on Instagram? I'm just sort of brainstorming here. I'm like, there's a reason that you're attracted to certain people. And I would first of all go, is there a value in that person that you want to become? Let's use Elon Musk example. Elon Musk for as a quick example. You might go, oh, I'm really attracted to Elon Musk, right? But is it because of how much money he's gotten? Or is it because he's such a visionary? Or is it because he's always pushing the status quo? But I would just go, find out what person you're attracted to, list out their qualities or the values that they hold, and go, which one of those are you actually like particularly attracted to? Like, for me, I think I hated how Elon Musk just like throws the bombs and like walks away. Like, it drives me crazy. But his vision is like incredible. So I'm going, oh, I love that part of him. But like, there's all these other things I'm like, I don't love that about you. I think the second thing, Danya, is that point about like the first step here in the deck of just spending time just turning inward. I think it's the hardest thing, like, especially as most of you on the line, I imagine, are like 20 and 30 year olds. Psychologically, you're in a season where you are just building, and sort of our brains are literally focused on just like acquiring and building and achieving, and sort of like just sort of like we're just focused on creating, where we have to remind ourselves to like just stop and take care of me instead of being external. Like, my counselor just says a lot. She's like, Pat, like the 30-year-old, especially like white male, like they're like sort of like ingrained to just achieve at this point. So her point is like, if you're actually going to like get out of that, you have to stop and just sort of like reflect and look at yourself for a little bit. So I would just say the second part of that is look internally and just actually sort of spend that time actually understanding what your values are. And the third thing is like start mapping them out. Like put like words on walls. This is how we do it, for company too. What are we attracted to? What pisses us off? Then you can start doing mental maps and start like circling things that you can start putting things together you think make sense for you. But here's the final thing I would say is this is something I'm learning for my family, for GAN, and just for me personally, is if you have more than 3, you don't remember them very often. I think it's the same thing for GAN. Like, we have 6 values, and frankly, they're just not top of mind. But the ones I have personally are top of mind because they're 3. So I would just spend a lot of time going like, what are the 3 things that really drive me as a human that allow me to show up? Because I say I'm beloved. When I'm threatened, I can go into conversation and just go, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm going to be loved. I'm going to be loved. Like, I'm going to be loved. Like, this is just a calming thing for me to be able to do. So with that, let's see if we have any questions coming in. Steve asked a question. What are you trying to instill in your kids? This is the question of the day, Steve. So we have a set of family values that are very similar to GAN's values. But the issue we have at home is that we're not doing a great job at bringing those up a lot. Like, we literally made these 3 years ago. My wife and I were on a trip together, and we made these. We're just not talking to our kids a lot about them. And I think the reason is because, frankly, there's like 6 or 7 of them we have for our family. So my thing would just be, number one, I think we need to boil them down to like 3 for our family. But what I am doing a lot is we do something at our office that I actually do at my house as well, which is a dinner. We'll go around the table and we do something called compliments, where we say, what's one thing we want to compliment another person in the family for? And at work, we call it appreciates. Every Monday, we go around and we say, for Danya, let's spend a minute. What are we thankful for Danya? Julian, let's spend 1 minute. What are we thankful for Julian? And what we're effectively doing is you're effectively going, what do we as an organization care about? And what do we want to celebrate? And that's what we're doing at the dinner table. We're going, Beatrice, you were so good at loving Ainsley, who's our next door neighbor. You did such a good job loving Ainsley today. And you see her, and it's like, oh, so what are we validating? We're validating that Bannister Rileys we're people that are friends, and we're friendly, and we are nice. You know, Beatrice, you're really brave today. I love that you know, I could tell you were scared going to school today, and you got out of the car and you did it. That's awesome. I'm really proud of you. So just another thing there where we're going, oh, just those little things, those compliments are really driving home how really home good behaviors. The anonymous attendee asked another question here. Hi, Pat. Love your company values. How are you taking your values and implementing them into the hiring and interview process at GAN? Any suggestions for founders? So this is something where we do sort of do 2 things. Number one, Danny and I especially, Danny is our COO. Danny and I, when we're meeting new founders, this is like the thing that's in the back of my head. And literally what I do when I leave an interview is I'm going away and I'm going, okay, on a scale from 0 to 10, how much do they follow the humanity value? And on a scale from 0 to 10, how much do they follow the integrity value? And on a scale from 0 to 10, how do they follow the celebration value? When we're interviewing, no one is ever going to get 6 out of 6, even on my team. No one gets 10 out of 10 on all 6 values. But what you want is you want the majority of your values to come out in every single person on your team. Otherwise, there's going to be issues that come up along the way. Like if 10 members on your team care about service and one of them doesn't, literally that's it will just create weird situations. So I think my push to everyone on the line is, number one, like literally have your values front and center. And when you get out of the conversations, figure out how much like they're aligned. And I would say if somebody falls under, like if you're doing a scale, if somebody falls under a 5 or 6 on any one of these, on any one of your values, I would seriously consider not hiring them. Second thing that we do is every single member of our team meets with every new hire, and we say everyone on the team has veto power. And what I'm telling members on my team to do is you can't do this as you get bigger and bigger, but we're a team of 10 right now, we can still do this. I said to my team, like, hey, if you don't see someone that follows one of these values, if the person doesn't follow one of our values, like, let's not bring them on to the team. So there's like Danya, for instance, along the way, I'm calling you out, Danya, so I'm sorry, like brought up someone who was joining our team that like, she was like, kind of anxious of like a particular value. And we're like, got it. It's super helpful to know. But I think just by Danya bringing that up and going, this person doesn't follow this particular value, it allows us to go, okay, we need to like stop
and seriously consider if like this person's a fit for the team or not. Because if someone on our team, like Donnie might have saw something that I would have never seen, and I'm like so thankful for that. I'm trying to think what else I would say as we're hiring. Oh, one thing I would say as we're hiring is not to make it overt. Like not to sit here and go, talk to me about how you think about humanity. Talk to me how you think about integrity. You have to ask other questions how to get there. So it's like celebration, you know, like ask questions like, hey, what do you do? What do you do when something awesome happens? You know, or like, what does work-life balance look like for you? And you're trying to hear along the way, like, do people stop? Do they not? Do they just keep working all the time? Anyway, so always asking other sort of questions like that. Nate, I'm going to come back to you because you're on the GAN team. I'm going to do other people, then come back to you. Anonymous attendee asks, how can we convey authenticity and values virtually? So I'm trying to figure out, if you don't mind even asking too, like, just even give me a little more, like, do you mean like for your company? Do you mean like in a pitch? Then I can sort of answer that too. I'm going to go to Marcy. If you could just respond back to the anonymous attendee, if you could just come back to me a little more, I can get into that. And Marcy asks this. She says, my work as a founder makes me happy most of the time, but I know I need my family time too. It's so hard to shut off my work brain and refocus on my family and myself. Any ideas? So, Marcy, it's such a good question. So here's what I would say. I've spent a ton of time this last year thinking about this exact question and going, it feels like there's like sort of like you always have the work pull and the family pull. I had a friend tell me years ago, there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's work-life trade-offs. And I fully agree that's true. Like, you can't make everyone at work happy all the time. You can't make everyone at home happy all the time. So there's always work-life trade-offs. What I have done is I've made a calendar for myself for work, and I've actually made rules for myself outside of work. So I'll put this in, I'll see if I can find it real quick when I'm between chats. But my work schedule is like, I am anal. I will only take more than 5 external calls a day. Every day I need, at least an hour and a half just of like time to get stuff done. I know on Tuesdays, I don't need to do any meetings at all in order so I can reset my brain. Like, I'll meet with my coach and I'll meet with my counselor on Tuesdays, but otherwise I'm like, it's a no meeting day. There's other times too where, so anyway, and if you get on the GAN.co blog too and look for Pat's schedule, you'll see I literally put up my entire schedule there. But here's where I'm going with that is, it allows me so I'm not like at the end of the day, not completely burned out for my family. Like, I've heard so many founders that are giving 100% of themselves and their family is coming home and getting their scraps. And there's a time, I'd say like a year ago, my wife was like, I love you, Pat, but you're giving us the scraps. And I'm going, yeah, like why give myself 100% to this thing at the risk of losing my life? So I would just first of all go, make sure your schedule at work is in a way where you still have energy at night. But here's the other part I would say too is, I've been reading just this book called The Relentless Elimination of Hurry. And it's this whole thing going, if we have rules, like I'll give you a quick example. I was going from getting up in the morning, again, my daughter would get up at 7 a.m. I'd be getting up with her, taking her downstairs, getting her situated real quick, running upstairs, checking the news real quick, hopping in the shower, coming downstairs, making sure my daughter is okay. Then at 7:45, start looking at my next call, 8 o'clock, jump on my first call of the day. And then going all throughout my day, right? Looking at a computer all day, being on phone calls, whatever. Then done at 5:30, immediately come home. I'm like going outside with the kids to have fun. Come back, 6:30, start making dinner. 7 o'clock, sit down to dinner. 7:30, we'll do something really quick, probably eat some dessert. 7:45, go upstairs, put the girls to bed. The girls take about 45 minutes to go to bed. 8:30, I'd come downstairs, look at Twitter and the news until 9:30. We'd put on a show at 9:30. I'd be watching a show, go upstairs at 10:15, look at the news one more time, and I'm passing out at 10:30. You hear in that voice tons of rushing, tons of the sort of just like, oh, I'm just like, it's sort of, you almost hear like a manic energy here. But what happens is I'm constantly being sort of fed stuff. I'm constantly consuming entertainment, information that my brain was never calming down. So I've spent I just need sort of rules for myself going forward. I'm going, number one, I won't look at news until I've either prayed or meditated in the morning. And secondly, I'm going to get up every day and do the same thing. I'm going to either pray or meditate every morning. At the end of the day, I'm going to put my phone away at 9 p.m. every night. Like I will not look at my phone. My phone will not be my alarm clock. My phone will not be in my bed after 9 o'clock every night. The way I shut it off. I'm doing something where on Fridays from 5 p.m. until Saturdays at 5 p.m. there's no phone at all. Like I'm literally putting it away just to get it out of my head, just to get it away from me. The other thing I'm doing is like once a month, I'm going up to the mountains or going on a hike just to sort of reset my brain. But it's a time where I'm thinking about the vision of the company. I'm spending a lot of time going, what do we need to do? How do we need to grow? But it gives me physically a way where I'm able to actually think strategically about where we should go. I'm making all these rules. Oh, and the other thing is my phone's black and white, the way I'm not constantly getting excited to check it. I bring up all these rules for all of you because I'm just going, unless you built them, unless you sort of give yourself guidelines, like I won't look at my phone after 9 o'clock. I will shut off my phone for 1 day a week. We're just going to continue to just consume. And as founders, it's really hard to sort of stay on top of all this stuff. Cool. Nate, I'm going to go to your question now. We've got 11 minutes left, so hopefully we can fly through all this stuff. So Nate asks, where's the intersection of personal and company values? As the founder and CEO, should your company values always be the same as yours personally? And I would just say, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of overlap. But like, for instance, like my identity, right, is one of someone who's beloved, someone who's a builder, and someone who, right, is a befriend of a family. I can't take those values and apply them. I can't take those values and apply them to the company for a variety of different reasons. I can help individuals get to that place. I can help people feel more loved. I can help people feel like better builders. But as a company, it feels kind of awkward. But as a company, what are things we care about? Celebration. I love throwing parties. I love celebrating small wins. I love celebrating big wins. It's like, yeah, that was a personal value that became a company value because as the CEO and owner, that's something I deeply care about. Integrity. It drives me crazy when someone doesn't follow through. Cool. Let's make that. That's a company value, because if someone on the team's not going to follow through over and over and over again, they're probably not a good fit for the team. Like I look at Danya. Danya's like has the most integrity in the world when it comes to getting stuff done. Like I respect that so much about her. So I would just go, but that's a personal thing I care about that has become a company thing because I'm the CEO of the company. So, to answer your question, I think who you are will impact your company values, but I don't think there will always be 100% overlap by any means. Cool. And I'll go to this last question unless there's any other ones. This last question was, how can we convey authenticity and values virtually? I would define authenticity as you are freely sharing with others who you are as a person. So you hear me today, right? I hopefully I'm coming across as like an authentic person, as someone who knows himself and knows himself enough where I'm willing to share who I am with you. We're virtually. I still found a way to do it. I think you can still do that on phone calls. I still think you can do that on, on Zoom, even over email, right? Like when somebody emails me, a lot of times, like I genuinely want to know how they're doing because it's authentic. To me, it's like if I'm relational, I deeply want to know, like, I'm going to write someone an email and go, hey, how are you? You doing okay? Like, is everything okay? Let's start there. And then we can sort of dig into stuff. But so I think you can find ways to do that. When it comes to sharing your values virtually, let's talk about the celebration value. On our team, got a new house. What do? We immediately sent them like a dinner to go celebrate. Lizzie on our team got a new dog. Awesome. Dog toys. Let's go celebrate that. Danya on our team doing an amazing job getting ready for our summit. Like, so what are we going to do? Like, we are going to, every Monday, we're going to just remind her when we go to appreciate how thankful we are that she's doing such an amazing job, that she is an amazing taskmaster who is like going to allow us to have a great summit because of how good she is at her job. Anyway, I just go like, just because we're not together and I'm not like putting my arm on Danya, giving her a high five. I still think we can very much show that we appreciate her and what she's doing virtually. I'm going to see if there's any other, anything else here. Cool. We'll see if there's any other questions. And if not, we can shut it down. But Denver Startup Week, how you feeling? We'll see if they're still there, if they had it out. Cool. Well, hey, here's the deal. If you have any questions or want to talk about any of this stuff, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is Pat, it's P-A-T, @gan.co. So it's P-A-T @GAN.co. Happy to talk about anything we talked about. Happy to talk about investing. Happy to talk about accelerators. Happy to talk about the Denver weather, whatever is helpful for you. But hey, and thank you all. It's hard being a founder. You all are fighting the good fight. And I'm just really, really thankful for the opportunity to do this today. So big shout out to Denver Startup Week and for making this presentation, and looking forward to talk with you all again soon. All right, thanks everybody.